Hello viewers and students. I welcome you in my YouTube channel at lecture series on income tax laws. Friends, today we are going to discuss very important concept, and this is concept of tax. Friends, everybody knows what is tax, but it is very difficult to define what is tax. So, because nowadays most of you pay tax to government in different forms of tax. That may be income tax, that may be wealth tax, that may be sale tax, or that may be GST also. But we don't know what is the exact meaning of tax, or we know what is the reason why we pay this amount towards government as a tax. Therefore, today we are going to discuss what is the concept of tax. Friends, firstly, before going to discuss what is the concept of tax, we must understand what is concept of taxation. Actually, taxation is nothing but the mechanism. It is a system through which government can levy tax, collect tax, and enforce levy and collection of tax. This is in brief what the concept of taxation. So friends, apart from this, the taxation is nothing but an act of levying tax on citizens, property, business by sovereign through law-making power to raise income to defray the necessary expenses of government. See, this is very important to know who can impose the tax and what is the purpose of imposition of tax. Friends, we know we are living in a democratic form of government. This is the most suitable form of government to rule, to administer, or to work for the public itself. But whatsoever the type of government is, that government is run, that government functions for the public itself. So government is nothing but those persons who are appointed by ourselves, that may be selected, whatever the process through which the government is selected. So the government is selected, government is formed by ourselves to work for ourselves. So therefore the government has to perform many functions. These functions include the defense, it includes to maintain internal peace and order, to protect you, to protect your property, or there are a number of functions of government. So to perform all these functions, the government requires fund. How? The question is how that government will perform such funds, because for its own administration, for the administration of nation, or to perform various functions, it requires expenditure. And so what shall be the source of income to meet with the expenditure? And one of source to collect the amount to fund the expenditure is nothing but the tax that is levied on and collected from its citizens, persons, business, properties, etc. So the aim to collect the tax is nothing but to raise the amount which is necessary for expenses of government. So the taxation is nothing but the inherent power of government to demand the contribution from public and for public purpose itself. So because it is expected that the government should work for public functions, public purposes, because it is our desire, because it is our will that government should run for public. Therefore it requires amount, and the government raises such fund through the mechanism of taxation, through the concept. So it is nothing but the inherent power of government to collect money from the public, to run the government, to meet with the expenditure which is necessary to perform various functions of government. Now we are going to discuss what is the concept of tax. So as I already told you that, see, everybody know what is tax because we pay it, but it is very difficult to explain what is tax. So now we must see what is here the tax, or what is the reason why we have to pay tax. And for that purpose we are going to discuss the different definitions that are provided by various philosophers, etc. So firstly we must understand what is tax. So the tax is nothing but compulsory contribution to government by its subject without expectation of definite return or benefits to bear. So this is the line itself explains many things. This sentence explains many things. Like first thing is that it is a compulsory contribution to government. Say when it is called as a compulsory, then it every person must have to pay it to government. It means every person who is liable to pay, he has to pay it, except government gives you the exemption from the payment. So this is very important thing. So it is compulsory contribution. As we know, for many functions or for many activities, we used to contribute some amount from which that expenditure can be made. Similarly here also the government requires his subjects, his citizens, his persons to pay some amount, and this is compulsory contribution. See, it is paid without expectation of definite returns. So it is, though it is compulsory contribution, the payer is not going to get anything back specific. And the third is a third thing is that the taxpayers are not going to get direct benefit. They may get indirect benefits. So this is what the general thing you must understand. So tax is nothing but the compulsory contribution to government without expectation of any specific benefit. See, afterwards we are going to discuss how it is without expecting something specific benefit. Then we have to see what the different definitions that are given by different authors. Like the first is the Dalton, who tries to define the tax, and you can see what the definition that is given by Dalton, Seligman, or the Bostable. You can find the similarities in this definition. Firstly we must see what the definition that is given by Dalton, and according to Dalton, the tax is compulsory contribution imposed by public authority. You must understand the wordings. The tax is compulsory contribution imposed by public authority, irrespective of exact amount of services rendered to taxpayer in return, and it is not imposed as a penalty for offense. So Dalton tries to explain the term tax as a compulsory contribution which is imposed by government on its citizen, and for that contribution citizens or the persons who pay it, they can't expect something specifically else. We know in any transaction there is a give and take relation. So when somebody gives something, For that he expects something, as it is like the definition of consideration, something for something, but here it is not there, that you cannot get something for the payment of taxes. So that something is not the direct benefit that is conferred upon it, that may be the indirect thing, that you may get the benefit, indirect benefit out of what the functioning of government, but the government is not going to give you a specific something by showing this is given for the consideration of what payment of tax you have made. Then we have to say second definition. See, Seligman defines tax, and according to this definition, the tax is levied compulsorily by government on its citizen to defray the expenses of government. Again, you can find the same things, definitions. Say, tax is the compulsory amount which is taken by government from its citizen, and the purpose is to collect the amount which is necessary for the expenses of government. So tax is necessary because, see, the government, who is government? Government is we, the peoples. So we want that government should act for the benefit of ourselves. So it is our responsibility to fund the government, by which government shall run its activities. Then third definition is according to Bostival. The tax is nothing but the compulsory contribution of wealth of citizen or the person for the service of public. As you know, nowadays we are living in a welfare state. The government is not or the functioning of governments are not restricted to the protection of state from external forces and just law and peace internally, but government has to cater various functions, welfare activities also, and that is the reason why for such a services it requires X amount, and that will be borne from the expend amount that is given by public itself. Then according to Cooley, the taxes, the definition which is given by Cooley, it tries to give the inclusive definition, and it provides that the taxes includes all the regular impositions made by state on its persons, property, privileges, occupations, services, employments by the people, and basically such taxes are imposed to raise public revenue only. Then we must say another definition. This definition is provided by Indian Constitution. As you know, Article 366 is the interpretation clause under Indian Constitution. So it through subclause 28, it tries to define what is taxation. And according to that article, taxation includes imposition of any tax, whether general, local, specific. So it just makes reference towards what kind of tax is imposed. But say imposition of tax is very necessary, and the Supreme Court of India also explained what is the concept of tax, and this is in Commissioner of HR versus HR&C versus Lakshmendra. The Supreme Court defined the concept of tax as exaction of money by public authority for public purpose and which is enforceable by law. So friends, in this definition also Supreme Court provides that the tax is nothing but the exaction of money by public authority from public. It means exaction of money is nothing but taking the money from public, it is for the public purpose, and this is a compulsory exaction. Nobody can refuse to pay tax. If that person is liable to pay tax, he has to pay tax, and if that person fails to pay, or if that person denies to pay, the penalties can be imposed. Therefore it is called as a compulsory tax, and it is enforceable by the tax. So the person who is not going to pay tax, an action can be taken by government against that person. So the Supreme Court also explained the nature of imposition and how its collection can be enforced. So we must understand there is absence of quid pro quo relation between taxpayer and what the benefit which is paid to payer. As we know, if we go into market to purchase something, so for example we are purchasing apples, so we used to pay whatever the amount, whatever the price of apple per kg, and for that consideration that seller gives us the apple. So this is you can see in this example, you can see there is a quid pro quo relation. We are paying money, and for that he is paying us the apples directly, so we are getting direct benefit for the payment of money. So because this is purchase transaction, but in tax there is nothing like this. So we used to pay government the tax, but for that consideration the government direct do not give anything to us. So we may get the indirect benefits, but there is no direct benefit. So in brief, now we must be able to understand what is tax, and accordingly it is a compulsory contribution imposed on a person, property, business to support government's social and economic operations. See, no government can perform efficiently without fund, without money, etc. And then who will give the money? Whether government can raise amount from external sources or from outside of nation, the government has to collect the money from its people only, and that is the reason why we must pay taxes to government. Without proper taxes, without proper amount, government cannot run efficiently. So therefore the tax is nothing but it is a money paid to government to fund its programs and services. Today we can see the government is provide many types of facilities, services to public. Some of them may be free of cost or with some cost fees, etc. But this is possible only because of the government have huge fund, and that is collected through the tax. So in short, the tax is nothing but the burden which is laid on individuals or the property owners to support the government. Now friends, we have discussed what is concept of tax. Now we must see what are the characteristics or what are the essentials of tax. So friends, if you go through the definitions and through the discussion just we have made, throughout that we can find certain taxes, essentials or the characteristics of tax. So first is it is a compulsory contribution. First essential, first characteristic of tax is it is compulsory payment. It is compulsory contribution. And you know what is the meaning of compulsory. When it is compulsory, you cannot get any chance to uh, avoid the payment. You have to pay it, and for non-payment you will be charged, you will be punished, or some action can be taken against you. Secondly, second characteristic of tax is it is levied by the government. So the question is, who can impose the tax, who can levy the tax, who can impose the tax, and who can collect the tax? So it is only government who can levy tax, it is only government who can collect tax. So the governments, that government can be the central government, that government can be state government, or that government can be the local governments also. They can impose tax only. So no authorities, or there will not be any delegatory legislation that can impose tax, collect tax. Then a third characteristic of tax is if uh, it is refused to pay tax, the refusal to pay tax invites the punishment. You can see or you might have heard in many cases examples where under income tax act many proceedings were initiated against those persons who fails to pay the tax or refuse to pay tax. Then another essential of income tax is there is no direct quid pro quo relation between taxpayer and the the authority to whom the tax is paid. So when we are liable to pay the tax, so it is our responsibility to pay it without any fault. And when we pay that tax, we cannot ask government that, see, I'm paying this much amount of tax, then what the benefit you are giving to me? Such kind of demand we cannot make. So there is no direct quid pro quo relation. Just before few minutes I have explained to you how we purchase apple from the seller, we pay something and for that something we get something. But here in taxes we can't get direct benefit from the government, so, but we may get indirect benefits from the government, like the roads, sanitation facilities, what various facilities that are provided by the government. Then next characteristic of tax is there is an element of sacrifice. That is, you can understand what is the meaning of sacrifice. Sacrifice means we are giving for the public, we are doing something without expecting any fruits. See, like that. So there is element of sacrifice means though we don't get anything back specifically, but we have to pay the amount without expecting something. So we have to sacrifice some share of our income or some share of our property, and that has to be sacrificed in the interest of public. Then next characteristic is that tax is levied to incur public expenditure for the benefit of country as a whole. It is levied to raise public revenue, to realize cost of benefits to public at large. Because see, the tax is necessary to run the government, the tax is necessary to run the nation, the tax is necessary to run various services and facilities which are made for the public welfare or in the public interest. So that expenditure is necessary to be borne, and that will be borne only out of money that is collected through the taxation. So it is very necessary, because no government can run without money. So it works as like oxygen to government, it works as like blood to government. See, without amount nobody can work, even government fails for the want of proper revenue. So it is an inherent power which is given to government to raise the fund through different sources, and the tax is nothing but one kind of source to raise the public revenue. The next characteristic is the flexibility. Friends, the basis of taxation cannot be same for all period, and it is reviewed periodically by taxing authority. This can be the example. So this is flexible, it is not the rigid system. It's mean tax rates are not rigid, tax slabs are not rigid, or what are the basis on which the taxes are imposed. These are also, this also can be changed. So it can be flexible, so it can be reviewed to meet with the changing time circumstances. And last characteristic is tax is always paid in a cash, it cannot be paid in a kind like the barter system. So whatever the tax liability is, it should be paid in a cash only. Amount should be paid to government through what the sources through which it can be paid. So friends, today we have discussed what is concept of tax, what are the definition relating to tax, what is the reason why we must pay the tax, and what are the essential characteristics of the tax. So friends, it is not possible to discuss the history of tax here, therefore we have just given some examples to understand what is the concept of tax. So friends, if you like this lecture, please share it with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe my channel. So thank you friends.